Welcome to Coconut Oil, Stardust, and Dope Vibes. This is our Sunday moment. And we're just going to power through. In case you haven't noticed, I sound a little hoarse. Whatever that respiratory thing is that was going around, oh gosh, it had us down last week. And it's still lingering and annoying, but we're going to get through. I didn't want to miss 2 weeks of the Sunday moment. So, this week, there has been, I think, so much change energetically, even in the last week, but especially as we round out October and we move into this November energy. Part of this is going to be a little astrological. And the other part, just very, our Sunday moment, like spiritual connection piece. One of the things that I've been talking about highly is how we connect spiritually. And I'm going to get into the downloads that I received. I feel like I need to better organize them and put them out so things make sense and they're translated as correct as possible, because I received them one way and then I kind of have this duty to translate. And so one of the things I've come to understand is that we have to do a deep clearing of what I've been calling our soul codes. There are things and ways that we operate, heart-wise, mind-wise. There are ways that we operate that are obsolete. Things that we do that we no longer, there's adaptation-wise, adaptability-wise, we no longer need to do it. So if you think about the animal kingdom and how a species may evolve, they're going to evolve based on whatever the climate is, right? So you may have let's say an animal that had a lot of fur, but as climate change occurs, that species evolves and doesn't have the amount of fur that it used to. I saw this episode of some type of Animal Kingdom thing that was on Disney Plus, and it was on Will Smith, his exploration show, and they went down to the depths of the ocean, and pretty much everything down there reflects blue, because that is I think that's like the only color that will reflect at the depths of the ocean where there is no light. So these creatures that live at the depths of the ocean, like, they wouldn't be able to live anywhere near the surface because they're adapted to living in complete darkness, right? But if something happened, let's say to the oceans, and the oceans started to recede, they would have to adapt, or that species would die off. They would have to adapt. Some way, somehow, their DNA would begin to change from what they were to what they need to be in order for the species to survive. And so this is kind of where we get that idea of survival of the fittest. And I'd been talking about and mentioning survival of the fittest for a minute. And it wasn't until recently that I started to grasp that these DNA codes, they have to change. We've been doing a lot of things that are based in survival, a lot of things that's based in individualism. There was an adaptation that kind of occurred where we would do things based on our individual survival. How do I continue? How do I get past the fight? How do I do all these things? And so it was based on our individual survival versus being based in a level of community survival. How does the community move forward? How does the collective move forward? And so there's really this space where I feel like coming up in 2023, especially 2023, there's going to be this difficulty kind of attuning to that level where those soul codes are getting erased. So think about your computer when you need an upgrade, like your Chrome or whatever is just like, okay, your Chrome's out of date. And you don't immediately update it. You're just like, whatever, computer's still working. I can still surf the way that I need to surf. And so we don't think about it too much. And we just try to keep going with the older version. That older version, it only works for so long. Right? And then they'll give you another reminder. It's like, we actually have this new version. We need you to come on over here to this new version because this old version isn't going to work anymore in a minute. And you're like, yeah. Like, I'm going to come on over to it eventually. And you're like, well, I can deal without these other things. I still want this other version to work, because I'm used to this version, yada, yada, yada. Well, eventually what occurs is that old version is obsolete and nothing works. It's like, until you come to this new version, none of your stuff is going to work, right? So now you got to download the new version. You have to get used to the codes and the speed and all of that stuff where the new version works. This is where we're at right now. This century and this decade, definitely this decade, we're talking about how to get used to this new coding, because a lot of the stuff that we were doing, we don't live there anymore. We don't live in a space where those things are necessary to operate and to function. Some of them, some of the codes that we're breaking, some of that stuff is like, like that developed because this is how mankind was living and we needed to just kind of live that way. Some of this stuff is adaptive and it's just learned behavior and it's highly dysfunctional and we needed to get rid of it anyway. And so the clearing out that is occurring is going to be uncomfortable. You may even feel it like growing pains. So empathically, you're going to feel it and just kind of feel that crunch. You're going to feel that discomfort. We have to move through that. We have to know that that's going to occur and say, but there's this thing on the other side. I need to use the new version of Chrome. I need to get through the discomfort of the fact, in my mind, like, oh, I'm so used to using this other version. I need the new version. I need the new thing that works, right? We go through this all the time when it comes to upgrading our phones, all the time. So this is the same thing when we have to endure this soul code update, these DNA updates. There are things that your DNA, our DNA has done for centuries, and it's what we know. We come into this incarnation doing more of what we know. And the kicker is that a lot of what we know is what we knew, have come to know, is now obsolete. We don't have to operate in that way anymore. We shouldn't operate in that way anymore. And so we have to lay a lot of that down and lay a lot of that to rest and learn how to move through the newness and learn how to get used to the newness. These new soul codes are going to help to take us into the age of Aquarius so we can be used to. Once we incarnate again into the age of Aquarius, your soul needs to already be used to the way that it needs to operate. So a lot of what we're doing as well is, as the ancestors, we are preparing the table for our descendants. We are preparing the table for them. I hear a lot of people talk about, we are the ancestors, the ancestors, the ancestors. No, you are the ancestors right now. You are. You are living a living, breathing ancestor. And so you don't become an ancestor when you transition. There's no promised land where you wait and it's like, over there, those are the ancestors. No, you are an ancestor today, right now. This incarnation you're living, you are an ancestor. And so your job is to prepare the table for those who are coming. We've got to get rid of a lot of those soul codes that live in our DNA that have allowed us to do these things that are cyclical, that have allowed us to do these things that had us adapt to a life that we had to kind of live, but it's not necessary anymore. I know when I was working with one of my spiritualists that's on my team, one of the things she told me, and I feel like this is one of the best examples of it, but one of the things she told me, she said, you've always incarnated as a woman. You've always incarnated as some semblance of a priestess, a deaconess, something working in the church, something working as a spiritual healing guide. I've been an oracle. I've been that in every single life. And so here I come doing the same thing in this life. And she said, part of what you have to break for your soul code is, you can now live openly as an oracle. There are spaces where people still have to come to grips with it. People still have to accept it. People still have to understand that it exists. But she said, especially Western world wise, but she said, this is all you've ever been. And so now you need to break what your soul knows. Your soul knew how to be this, but hide. Now you have to break that, because hiding is obsolete. It's not necessary anymore. So that piece of you that still wants to operate in magic in the dark and in the shadows, she's like, get rid of that piece. Get rid of it, because it's obsolete. We have to rewrite the soul codes to let your soul know that moving forward in any other incarnation, you are allowed to live out loud as the oracle. You don't have to adapt the way that you had to adapt anymore. And in a lot of that adapting, my soul learned that you couldn't have everything. You can't be the priestess that you're designed to be and have a family. You can't be the oracle and have a husband. My soul learned that, it's like one or the other. You either follow the calling or you have the family. There's never been an incarnation where I totally have both at 100%. And she said, but this is where you rewrite the soul codes and say, you know what? There should be a middle ground where you're able to do both, right? The strength of a woman, the strength of the gift, the strength of the very gift that God gave you. God wouldn't give you that gift and say, but then you can't have these other things. That's not how that works. And so there's a lot of soul code rewiring that I'm doing for myself right now in this lifetime that is going to help me in other incarnations, and that overtly is going to help other other magicians, other spiritualists who are on this path, where they're like, hey, I see her living authentically, I can do that too. And it'll stir them to rewrite their soul code. So when they go into subsequent lives, they work and they operate in a way that is authentic and that helps them to live loud and live openly as well. And so we're really at this space of really technically rewriting history. I posted this post a while ago, and it was like, all this stuff we going through, we better get a new chapter of the Bible. And I'm like, that's funny as hell to me. It's hilarious to me, but it's real. We're rewriting a space in history, and those of us who are scribes and who are artists are here to record that. So we understand what we've been through. We understand what we shouldn't have to go back through. And we understand clearly through channeling and through oracle where we need to go. Stevie Wonder did it for us. He told us what the pathway was. He told us where we needed to go 40 years ago in a lot of his music. Auntie Tony told us where we needed to go. Auntie Octavia told us where we needed to go. Brother Baldwin told us where we needed to go. Many of them 40-something years ago, they left us breadcrumbs. They were the ancestors while they were living, and they understood the need to take what they were given and download and distribute that and let us find it when we find it, and have the understanding when the understanding is ready. And so we need to do the same for our descendants, because we are the current ancestors, and we are breaking the soul codes and rewriting them as we speak. I'm going to get into more of this. I just wanted to kind of drop this as a Sunday moment, because it's something that continuously comes up. I may even have classes on it in the Love Expansion Academy. But this is where we are right now. There's more to come. It's an extensive conversation. But wishing you a happy Sunday. Thanks for joining me. Coconut Oil, Stardust, and Dope Vibes. And today's Sunday moment.